Hi everybody, this is Werner from Scapago again, and in today's video I'd like to talk a little bit about how you can practice speaking German, even if there are no Germans around to practice with, or even if you're afraid of speaking German. Now, the one thing that I think is pretty clear when you want to learn German is that at some point you will have to start speaking because, yeah, you have to practice what you want to do. You're not going to suddenly magically speak German after studying it theoretically for 3 years. So just the same way as you cannot learn to play the violin by just going to concerts where there are violin players, you will have to start practicing. There are some people that insist you have to start speaking from day one. I'm like, well, this is maybe a little bit dogmatic, but you should do it relatively early. And in my textbooks and online courses also, I insist that you should do it. But then what about these two problems? Either you don't have any Germans around you, or Austrians, or Swiss, or anybody else who speaks German, and you find it too scary. So if you don't have German speakers around you, of course there are options nowadays. I would say there are two that we can offer. One is for a high budget and one is for a low budget. Of course, you can hire a teacher. Now, you will say, yeah, you're biased because you run an online language school and you have teachers and you earn money with this. So that's true. So feel free to go on to one of my competitors. I'm not saying that our teachers are the ones, one and only. But if you have the budget for hiring a teacher, then I would say this is a very good option because it's extremely efficient. You have 45 minutes where you will speak all the time, where you will get qualified feedback. So that's very, very valuable. If you have little time but a relatively high income, I would say this is the way to go. You can, with our teachers, you can also schedule a free demo lesson, and there will be a link somewhere around this video where you can do that. Okay, so enough for the advertisement. The other option is you join a language cafe. And we also do virtual language cafes. This means just as with the teachers, you can join from anywhere in the world. They're absolutely free, and you will meet people that are on your level. If you are on our newsletter, then you get the invitations to the Language Cafe automatically. If you're not, please subscribe to it. You can find the link also under this video. That brings me to the second point. What if you're afraid of speaking German? Isn't that scary, like meeting strangers and talk to them? Yes, it is. And you can talk yourself into the fact that this is irrational, but it doesn't really help, right? Some people are afraid of dancing in front of others are afraid of speaking in front of others are afraid of a camera. Some people are afraid of mice. Is that rational? Not really. But these hobby psychologists that tell you, well, just step out of your comfort zone. If it were that easy, we wouldn't have people suffering from depression, right? We would just say, oh, don't be so sad, smile a bit more. It's not that easy, right? Our emotions are not so easy to control. So I'm not a big fan of these, oh, just do it approaches, because usually they can be very frustrating and make you feel very guilty if you're just too scared to do it. So I think the trick is you do something that feels a little bit scary. Now that's the moment for my beloved onion principle to come in. What I mean by this is usually your fears of speaking German to somebody else are a little bit layered, like an onion. So you might be super afraid of speaking German in public, but maybe not so afraid of speaking to a teacher, and even less afraid of speaking to a German friend that you already know and that you know will not laugh about you, or even if she laughs about you, well, you're going to laugh together. This onion is, of course, individual. So somebody might be more afraid to talk to a friend than to a stranger. Other people say, no, I'd rather speak to a friend. This is, of course, up to you, but I think the general principle applies to everybody. So what you should do in this onion is pick the layer that scares you just a little bit, And that's my challenge for today. Try to find somebody who you can speak German to that you find just a little bit scary. For example, a friend. If you have a German-speaking friend, send them a message. Tell them, hey, could you help me with this? Can we talk once a week, 15 minutes, something like that? Or if it's a colleague, can we talk German in the lunch break? Something like that. If all of that feels still too scary, I suggest that you talk to yourself. That's the central layer, actually, or the kernel of the onion. And I think speaking to yourself is a very underrated thing in language learning. Because again, just like playing the violin, you can practice without an audience. And the same applies to speaking. So you will practice your pronunciation, your fluency, even your grammar by speaking. And by speaking to yourself. You don't need somebody to listen to you. Of course, you will not get feedback, but that's not the point here. So I suggest, especially if you're a beginner, and especially if you're afraid of speaking, speak to yourself. For example, tell yourself what you did in the weekend. Or you can also work on certain scripts. For example, when you do small talk, many situations are predictable. People are going to ask you, where do you come from? How long have you lived here and there? Why are you learning German? How are you learning German? What is your job? Where do you live? Can you say something about your family? And so on. So there are these things that go over and over again. Okay, you're not going to have a new job every week. So basically, if somebody asks you for your job, you can prepare a script that you can somehow learn by heart. So if you have told the script 10 times to your teddy bear, you might be comfortable enough next time to say it, for example, in one of our language cafes. And this is the way to work your way up in the onion and to gradually fight your fear of speaking. Okay, one last note on this. Some people say, yeah, well, you should only practice speaking with native speakers because you're going to pick up mistakes from other students. Well, the problem is this. Of course, it's true. You practice speaking German with somebody from Argentina, and this person also makes mistakes and has maybe pronunciation issues and so on, so you might pick up something that is wrong. But firstly, mistakes can also be corrected. So usually this influence is not so horrible unless this is everything you do over months and years maybe, and you never hear like real native German. But you also have to weigh this against the fact that, especially for beginners and especially for people who are scared of speaking, speaking to native speakers feels very intimidating and can be very frustrating because native speakers are not used to use simple language. But if you speak to another student who is maybe also on A2 level or even A1 level, just like you, well, their vocabulary is limited, their grammar is limited. So a conversation with these people is much easier and might just get you the necessary practice to take the next step. So don't take that dogmatic. Of course, you should not avoid native speakers forever. In the long run, that's your goal. But in the short run, speaking with somebody who is also learning German is a good way of getting some speaking practice. Okay, so now it's up to you. Please share in the comments, how are you practicing to speak German today? Are you running into any issues? Do you have any suggestions? I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you soon in the next video.